What if humans are already part of an alien fleet? What if some humans never truly left Earth, but left humanity behind? For decades, stories about extraterrestrial civilizations have described mysterious fleets surrounding our planet. But one particular story goes much further. It claims that humanity isn't simply being watched by an extraterrestrial civilization. Some humans have supposedly become part of that civilization themselves. According to a channeling published by Arrow of Light in 2021, the so-called Galactic Fleet Command had expanded far beyond its original number of patrol ships. The message claimed that spacecraft and personnel from other planets and galaxies had joined the fleet. But then came the strangest detail. Humans who had left Earth were supposedly joining the fleet as well. According to the story, many of these people had experienced difficult and sacrificial lives on Earth, and after leaving the planet, they supposedly chose to continue helping humanity, from what the message describes as the higher realms. But who exactly were these people? And why would humans need to join an extraterrestrial fleet in the first place? To understand that, we have to go back to the organization at the center of the story, Ashtar Command. In these channeling accounts, Ashtar is described as a commander of a vast galactic federation, or galactic light forces. The fleet is supposedly not simply traveling through space. Its mission is described as protecting Earth, assisting humanity, and guiding the planet through what these teachings call ascension. One Arrow of Light message even claims that hundreds of thousands of fleets oversee Earth's region of the Milky Way. And this is where the story becomes much bigger than one extraterrestrial commander. Because according to these accounts, Earth is supposedly sitting in the middle of a much larger cosmic conflict. A conflict involving multiple civilizations, enormous spacecraft, and forces that humanity cannot see. Which raises another question. If humans can supposedly become part of this fleet, were some humans already connected to it before they ever left Earth? This leads to another concept frequently connected with Ashtar's messages, the star seeds. According to one Arrow of Light article, some people living on Earth are described as humans whose spiritual origins supposedly come from other worlds or civilizations. The story connects these people with places such as Lyra, Sirius, the Pleiades, and Andromeda. They are described as ordinary humans on the outside, but supposedly carrying a deeper galactic identity. And this creates an interesting connection. If starseeds are supposedly humans with extraterrestrial spiritual origins, and some humans are supposedly joining the galactic fleet after leaving Earth, then within this belief system, humanity isn't really separate from the Galactic Federation. Humanity is supposedly already part of it. Some are on Earth, some are supposedly working from higher realms, and others, according to the story, are already traveling with the fleet. But what exactly would this fleet be doing around Earth? Why would Earth need a galactic fleet? According to these channelings, the answer is simple. Earth is supposedly under threat. One of the most dramatic examples comes from a 2021 message called Ashtar, Earth Fleet. It claims that Anunnaki, Orions, and Reptilians had established underground bases on Mars, and that Ashtar's fleet and its allies were supposedly eliminating those bases. Another message goes even further. It describes enormous battles between the so-called light forces and what it calls the dark forces. According to that account, some battles involve hundreds of thousands of spacecraft, including motherships and even ships described as being comparable in size to planets. Now imagine the scale of that claim. Humanity looks at the night sky and sees a few thousand stars. But according to this story, behind that apparently peaceful sky could be an enormous conflict involving civilizations that humanity hasn't even discovered. And Earth is supposedly one of the most important locations in that conflict. The war under Mars. And then there is Mars. For decades, Mars has been one of the greatest mysteries in our neighboring planetary system. But in Ashtar's channeling narrative, Mars becomes something much darker. The planet is described as having underground bases associated with hostile extraterrestrial groups. In another 2024 message published by Arrow of Light, Ashtar is quoted as claiming that Mars had been severely damaged during an intergalactic battle between the Galactic Light Forces and Reptilians. The same message describes a massive cloaked spacecraft approaching Earth, supposedly a reptilian mothership larger than half of our planet. According to the story, Ashtar's fleet detected it, surrounded it, and force it to leave. Again, there is no scientific evidence establishing that this event happened, but as a story, it introduces something important. The fleet isn't supposedly waiting for humanity to discover it. It claims that the fleet is already actively operating around Earth, the fleet we can't see. And that creates the biggest problem with the entire story. If hundreds of thousands of spacecraft are supposedly surrounding Earth, why don't we see them? One Ashtar message published by Era of Light offers an answer. The fleet, it claims, can remain hidden using technology that bends or manipulates light. In other words, the ships could supposedly be there without being visible to us. This is an extraordinary claim, and it's also incredibly difficult to test, because if something is invisible, and every failure to detect it is explained by the fact that it is invisible, then how could we ever distinguish the claim from a story? And this is where the line between belief and evidence becomes extremely important. But the story doesn't end with invisible spacecraft. Eventually, it promises something much bigger. First Contact. An Era of Light article from 2021 described a future in which enormous galactic Federation ships would supposedly contain billions of human beings alongside extraterrestrial humanoid civilizations such as Pleiadians, Arcturians, and Andromedans. Within this narrative, the Ashtar Command supposedly has one primary mission: help humanity ascend, and eventually make contact. But there's a fascinating problem. Humanity has heard predictions of imminent extraterrestrial contact many times, and sometimes the predicted date arrives, and nothing happens. The strange admission, and this is where the story takes an unexpected turn. In January 2026, Era of Light published another message titled, Ashtar, Our New Commitment. And this message openly addresses the repeated promises of an upcoming meeting. It acknowledges that previous channelings had repeatedly suggested that humanity would soon meet the Galactics, but that those expected events did not happen. The message even says that dates had supposedly been set internally, only to be delayed again. That admission changes the story, because now we're no longer simply asking, are they coming? We're forced to ask something much more uncomfortable. What happens when a prediction keeps moving into the future? So, are humans really in the fleet? So let's return to the original claim. Are humans actually joining Ashtar's galactic fleet? According to the Era of Light channeling, yes. The story describes humans who supposedly left Earth and became involved with the fleet's patrol activities. But there is an important distinction. This is a channeling claim, not an established scientific discovery. There is currently no independently verified evidence showing that humans have physically left Earth and joined an extraterrestrial military or galactic fleet. There is also no verified evidence confirming the existence of the enormous fleet, the alleged Martian battles, or the extraterrestrial organizations described in these messages. And perhaps that's what makes the story so fascinating, the real mystery. Because maybe the most interesting question isn't whether Ashtar's fleet exists. Maybe it's why stories like this continue to appear. Why do humans repeatedly imagine civilizations beyond Earth? Why do we tell stories about people who discover that they were never truly alone? And why does the idea of humans becoming part of something larger than humanity itself feel so powerful? Maybe it's because we've always looked at the stars and wondered if someone was looking back. The story of Ashtar's galactic fleet gives us one possible answer. It says that somewhere beyond what we can see, humanity is already part of a much larger cosmic story. Some humans are supposedly on Earth. Some are supposedly starseeds. Some are supposedly working with the galactic fleet. And one day, according to the story, the fleet may finally reveal itself. But until that day comes, we have to separate what is claimed from what can actually be proven, because sometimes the mystery isn't finding the answer. It's discovering how much of the story was ever real in the first place. This is the Crystal Mind. We first listen to the story. Then we investigate what is actually true.